Welcome to Steve's Cottage with Steve Horner. Steve Horner, a former radio talk show host, helps spotlight the source of today's social chaos while offering practical solutions to the problems negatively affecting you and your family. And now, here's Steve.
You didn't set the time. You did. I'm sorry, you did. I'm just looking at, I was just looking at the opening. I really liked that opening. Sean came over to my place and over to the cottage, and we filmed that. And I had scripted it, and then he gave me some tips, and that's a great opening. And then you found that theme, and you said, "This is it. Can't ever do any better." Well, I'm just enjoying the new arrangement here in Sean's studio. Here, I come over to Utah Tech right here in lovely St. George to do the show. And then I get out of here about, late afternoon and go back to the cottage and work on next week's show while I'm popping a cold Keystone Light. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Horner. It's that's probably the most improv opening we've had because I didn't think the clock was running. But, the improv is good. And I'm so happy to have you here in the cottage. Metaphorically, of course, joining me as we do 25 minutes of stirring dust. There's nothing here that you'll hear on Hannity or any of these other programs, and I have high regard for all those talk show people because I've been there. But I am now in my semi-retirement years, and I'm barking loudly here from Steve's Cottage. The title of this program is called Willmar, Minnesota. Apathy gone haywire. Intriguing? Oh my. Wait until you hear the theme song, which connects to my title. Ready? Get that band going, a nice little easy guitar, and here we go. No, it isn't very pretty what a town with too much pity can do. Wow, huh? I think it came from Peyton Place or something like that. It isn't very pretty what a town with too much pity can do. We've got too much pity out there, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, the poor immigrants, or the poor black people, or the poor Jew, or the poor... It's never the poor white guy, is it? No, that is never the poor white guy. Why? Well, I guess God created us to be special, and that very attitude, which is conclusive from the attitude of always bastardizing the white guy, that is racist and sexist. Totally. They don't know what the hell the definition is. Racism and sexism. I'm a guy who believes that we're all created equal by God, and it's our different behavior that sets us apart. I was working with the Linder Farm Radio Network. I was promotions director for a number of years there in Willmar, Minnesota. Nice little farm town. About 100 miles due west of Minneapolis and St. Paul. 18,000 people when I showed up. It still has 18,000. There's a problem there. Lots of lakes, big lakes, small lakes. I was married, Joyce and I, 2 kids there, a couple of horses, dog and a cat. I mean, it was sublime. Go right out my door to cross-country skiing or snowmobiling or swimming down the lake or hockey in the wintertime. I mean, we had our own little resort, and it was only like 7 minutes back roads to between the home and to the radio station. And Joyce, we put the kids in daycare now and then. Joyce was a teacher at the public school, and it's a community of Scandinavians, German, Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish, and that part of the world all immigrated to places like Willmar, Minnesota, and lots of churches. Oh, Garrison Keillor, this is like. Garrison Keillor is, what was the name of his town? Sean, help me with this. Garrison Keillor in Garrison Keeler. He was in Lake Wobegon. Got it. Thank you, sir. And you didn't help me. I pushed the brain.
It's all you.
I put it all me. Thank you. Lake Wobegon. This would be a Lake Wobegon. All Lutherans. A lot of churches, you see. And the station I worked at, had an FM station, and now they got a bunch of stations. The FM was right across the hallway. And I was working at the AM, news, weather, sports, typical Americana, well listened to hometown radio. And Harry Linder, a man who came from South Minneapolis in 1940, opened it up. Everybody said, Harry, small town radio is not going to work. He proved them wrong by bringing them local sports, news, and weather. And Harry is a legacy in the annals of Minnesota radio. He gave it to his two sons. Sons gave it to the grandchildren and went to hell from there. At least I had some issues with them. But, third generation, that's the way it typically goes. They didn't run it in the ground. I think they're doing fine. But I couldn't. They weren't my cup of tea. Okay, so I eventually went back to the Twin Cities. I started in Billings, Montana, my first radio job, 1973, after graduating from Brown Institute in Minneapolis. And then you'd think I went down a step to Oaks, North Dakota, but not true, because then I got involved in management. And when you work at one of the hometown radio stations in the farm industry in that part of the country, billions of dollars exchanges, huge equipment, huge labor, huge prices on these on the markets. A lot of corn and soybeans, and boy, I'll tell you, there's just a huge amount of money that goes in and out of those small farm communities in the Midwest. And then I went to good old KWLM in Willmar, Minnesota. And Joe, Jack, and Bud. Jack was the mayor and a great guy, and he was on a lot of different national state committees. And Bud was a favorite guy of mine, and Joe was a favorite guy of mine. And I remember and it was really fun to come into their studio when they were doing the Hot Stove League for about 20 minutes every morning. Joe would be doing his pipe, and the windows, 20 below, and frosting up, and it was warm and cozy in there. It just gave me a great warm, like at grandma's type of place, and they'd be, snacking on homemade cookies that somebody had left by, and hot coffee, and they'd talk and get into some real funny routines. And it was just fun, and I'd be popping in and out to get my commercials in order, and listening to these guys, and just felt it felt like a real family. I just really was enamored by the whole thing, and I lived there for 7 years. And of course, Joyce and I were married, and had a good time. One morning, some lady called up and spoke to Bud. This is after the Hot Stove League ended, and Bud was on the air by himself, doing the morning news, weather, sports, playing music, and a lot of commercials. And the lady said, Bud, I don't want you to use the word gang. What are you talking about, lady? Well, you're calling okay, gang. Let's talk about a little bit about the weather. How is that offensive? Well, Bud, there's a lot of gangs, out there these days, and we just don't want to encourage them. How absurd. Bud said, well, that's ridiculous. This is like our own gang. This is like my friends. This is like a community, And yeah, but it has connotations of inner city problems, and she didn't want to be, she was politically correct and that crap, you say. And it turns out that she was one of these new cunts. You know what we mean by cunt here, don't you? On this show, it's C period, U period, N period, and T period. It's an acronym. Yes, women do have their periods, but men, we have
Exclamation point!
Exclamation mark!
Point!
Mark point! Bingo! We mean business. We're table pounders. We should be anyhow. So it's can't understand normal thinking. And the more these women become appointed and or elected into places of public policy making and authority, the more this is proven to be true, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the Constitution keeps us from being gender biased in our hiring, as it should be. Equal protection under the law. But we don't have to vote for them. We don't have to vote for those who appoint them. Women are sentimentalists. They're not pragmatists. We men are pragmatists. We understand cause and effect. If the damn thing ain't starting, we know how to go to the source of it. Women, they'll just buy something different or paint it a different color. You see that with all the crime going on in the states that they had. It's pathetic. So these women came in from the Twin Cities with their big government salaries, with the WIC and the HUD and other handout groups, you see. And that started in the 70s out in places like Willmar, Minnesota. Now, this is in an area where, a lot of farmers, and I'm out in the farm with a lot of these guys doing promotions, and I know that sometimes they'll talk about black people and they'll say, yeah, the N-word. And I'm not going to say that here because I used it once just to say what Chris Rock says, and YouTube took that episode off. So there are a bunch of snowflakes, and I'm not going to I'm not going to push any buttons there. But when Jesse Jackson came out to work with Willie Nelson on one of these big 1970s pitches to save the family farm, I was out there with my sponsors and my promotion ideas, and had huge crowds out there. And so I talked to the farm director later on, and I said, these people have a tendency to sometimes use the N-word, and I see him out here shaking hands with Willie Nelson. I mean, not with Willie, but also with Jesse Jackson. I said, that's a little hypocritical, isn't it? He says, yeah, but then they just go inside and wash their hands. And that's about the long and short of it, folks. And what did these farmers start doing then? Instead of continuing to hire the local high school kids at $11 an hour to detassel the corn so that it matures properly and reaps the right benefits off of that stalk that it should have during its growing season, they get these damn Mexicans in. And it was endorsed because the women, like Wick and HUD and some of the wives of these husbands, well, it's a town with too much pity. What a town with too much pity can do. No, it isn't very pretty. And the men, saps, they sat back and just let it happen. Probably out there promoting it. Of course they were. And then the cunts came in at Hormel. It used to be called Genio Turkeys. Genio's still out there, headquartered in Willmar. But then Hormel came up from the southern Minnesota border with one of their extensions. And the cunts run that with all of their handout groups. The federal government pays them to subsidize the employment of these Somalis. So now it's, and the women in the town and the churches, they benefit too because the government subsidizes these Lutheran churches to sponsor these Somalis. And these Somalis hate Americans. They don't like Americans. They're not patriots. They don't try to learn the language. They don't assimilate. They don't want to. They don't think we ought to be here. You see? And they'll walk four abreast downtown Willmar, and anybody that opposes them, they'll knock on the street. And they'll actually shit in the aisles of the grocery stores. And my friend, former Councilman Steve Amon, who was ousted by one of these sissies from running again, told me he witnessed it. Couldn't get the police on him. So the sentiment of the church is, oh, well, they just don't know. We just don't know. We want to help them, though. Too much pity. And the men should have been banging on the desk saying, bull crap to that. But no, They hid behind the closed doors. They went in and washed their hands and kicked the door instead of doing something civilly. So now you've got a town with too much pity. You got the Somalis, you got an angry community, and they're still at 18,000 because nobody wants to move there. It's a mess. And it's all over the country. It's all over the world. Have you seen the numbers on immigration around the world? Huge, astonishing. Hundreds of thousands clamoring to get into the border. I have lunch now and then with my friend Michael. He's a Bureau of Land Management, BLM, not the Black Lives Matter crowd, the jokers, the idiots, the fools, the chumps. No, these are real live people with real live helpful jobs at the Bureau of Land Management. So we have lunch now and then, and I said, Michael, tell me about, I can't understand these, the Jew-run press. Some days the illegals are up and sometimes down, and then Biden's plans are working, and then it's all, he says that nothing's working down there. They're just trampling old barbed wire area, and they're just coming in, and they're being let loose, and they're running amok, and then they find somebody with handouts. They find somebody with pity. Huh? Too much pity. Yeah, we want to help those, don't we? Because we're sentimental cunts. And so then the husband or the man of the hour or the guy, maybe he's a fruitcake alphabet person. So he's got, he or she or whatever the pronoun is of the day. So there's too much sentimentalism or too much political correctness going on there, and so nothing gets done there. And that's pretty much the way it is all around the world. And the reason that is because they are able to see what we in America have accomplished with all of our beautiful homes, all of our beautiful vehicles, our roadways, our billion restaurants, the children that are in jail and changing to alphabet people, the banks that are going under, the collapse of the marriages, the crime skyrocketing. But what they see on the satellites and the internet is, man, I want to live there. Hell yeah, that's my place. I want to live there. I'm going to just sneak into the closest Western civilization and live that. I don't give a damn what they say. So it could be France, could be Germany, and of course the cunts there are saying, wow, that's right. We have a lot of sympathy for these people. We have a lot of pity. And those who should be standing up and blocking the borders and changing the laws, well, they're apathetic, sympathetic, sentimental denizens of know nothing, do nothing. USA, Germany, France, around the world. Spain. And look at the homeless encampments around the world. Oh, these poor guys, or these poor gals. I was talking to, I wanted to buy some flowers for my friend Ernestine. She was a sweet, beautiful woman I met when I was, after I left a radio station that I went to in Minneapolis after the divorce and did the single parenting thing. And, of course, that's all available at stevehornerbooks.com. stevehornerbooks.com is where you can buy my books. The single parenting book is what I'm referring to now. And so after the kids were liberated, got out of the home, they were 17, 18, whatever, and they wanted to get back to where their mom was living in Phoenix. And so I raised them for 17 years full-time, and I felt, well, I did a hell of a nice job, and it was very rewarding on my part. So I hit the road, and I ended up at KTAR in Phoenix, the home of the Suns. The kids really didn't want me there. Dad, are you chasing us? Are you following us? Well, it worked out for a while, but then I got out of there. I was just a little bit too rowdy for a big station like that. But they liked me, but it was just too rowdy. So I ended up in Bend, Oregon at KBND, met Ernestine at church. Beautiful, fun gal. She was a product of her Chinese mother. She was raised and went to a Catholic church, Kamalamala, I think she said, in Honolulu. Born and raised there. Chinese mother and a tall, strapping, good-looking Portuguese father. And so we had it on for a long time, about a year, and had a good time. So we stayed in touch. She was having problems with brain cancer, and then she had some diabetes, and then she's had an amputation. So I shopped around to send her flowers. So I called KBND, talked to the new general manager, and I had been a talk show host there at KBND. And I was talking to the owners of the stores downtown, and they said, God, we got all these little fruitcakes, all these little drug users, all these people that are just raising hell with our customers. And I talked about that on the air, and I was immediately silenced. The Chamber of Commerce woman called and said, you can't talk that. I said, well, let's nip it in the bud, because it's only going to get worse. So now, 20 years later, I talked to Jeremy, who was the general manager at KBND, asking him who are some of the most favorite florists in town, because I want to send Ernestine a bouquet just to feel good on her 70th birthday, you see. I like going out with these younger chicks. Well, so anyhow, I found the name, and I said, how's it downtown? Well, they are all over. They are bad. They are causing chaos. They are doing... Jeremy, you're locked up in political correctness. Are you talking about the homeless? Yeah. Are you talking about the drug users? Yeah. Are you talking about the fruitcakes? Yeah. And then we opened the door to real man conversation. He says they're running amok down there. They're not mentally ill. Sure, there are some that are mentally ill, but they're screwed up from all over their drugs. And they've been enabled, entitled, and you can't talk about them any decently, and the police won't do anything about them. And I said, well, I was trying to prevent that 20 years ago, but I had too much sympathy, too much pity. And guys like you maybe, no, he said, I'm from Wyoming. Okay, fine. I respect some of the politics in Wyoming, except for Cheney's cunt daughter. Other than that, pretty good state. But how did she get elected? By feigning to be a rhino or to be a rhino? Who knows? Well, so anyhow, I get carried away with this stuff. So he says it's just horrible downtown. And I said, that's exactly what I was trying to prevent. Exactly what I was trying to prevent. And then there's a florist there called Donner. So I called them, and it was around Mother's Day. And so they were busy. I couldn't get through the voicemail. I called Monday, talked about them, and then I called Tuesday and couldn't get through. And then I left a message saying, well, I'll find somebody else. KBND told me about... this other florist down there. Besides, I don't know if I want to do business with you because, you're probably you're downtown and you didn't do anything about the homeless and the drugs and the idiots that were flocking down there, jeopardizing your business. Your business sense was compromised by your idiocy and your sentimentalism, cunt style politics. So she called back and said, hey, Mr. Horner, I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff you said were inappropriate, but I'm going to give you one more chance here. And I said, F you, cunt. I ain't doing business with you. Don't call me. I won't call you. And you got exactly what you deserve. Now, folks, if you want to take care of some of this, don't vote for him. Keep the man in the picture. Let's start slowing down on these divorces. Let's start slowing down on some of these out-of-marriage childbirth programs. Let's cut back on the handouts so we don't hold the carrot up to these women who want to get knocked up and reap benefits off of the government. And what? Oh, my gosh, are you kidding? 25 minutes is up and gone already? Woo! Baby, heck, can I taste that absolutely ice cold Coors Light? No, I guess it's a Keystone Light. Hey, folks, we're going to be back here next week, but maybe not. This is episode 30. I might give it a break. Awfully great to have your company. And as you go through life and you're constantly climbing that mountain, trying to achieve the apex, okay? Do like I have done. Get off of that unencumbered trail and get onto that grizzly, tough trail. And jump into it, because it'll give you a better experience. It'll give you a better feel for yourself and stronger and better memories. And I'll be back next week, and you take good care of yourself.
Thanks for joining us. Visit Steve's Cottage again with Steve Horner.